I'm Tyler Austin from Gungnir Strategic. Thank you so much for watching. This video is going to be an introduction to two-man CQB, and in this video I'm going to go over something called the Wingman Concept, or Wingmanning. Now, the Wingman Concept is going to be extremely important, not only in just two-man CQB, but all of Team CQB, because it's going to be so heavily used, and the examples in which wingmanning can be utilized is nearly unexhaustible. So it's really something that you need to be very familiar with and very good at, because it's something you're going to be using constantly. Now, this is why I like to refer to it as the Wingman Concept, because to me it's more of an idea and a concept rather than a hard technique. But that's just a difference in terminology, because a lot of people will just refer to it, a lot of people in a lot of schools will just refer to it as a technique. But again, it's just a difference in terminology and definition. But for me personally, I like to refer to it as a concept because, again, it's just so broadly applicable. So what is wingmanning, or the wingman concept? Well, quite honestly, it's a lot easier to show and demonstrate than it is to explain, but I'll do my best. Don't worry, I'll have examples at the end of this video so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. But basically what wingmanning is, for example, if I have a point man and he's working a certain angle and there's another angle that he is exposed to that he cannot cover because he is busy working another angle, if I'm his wingman, I am more or less over his shoulder in physical contact with him, maintaining security or clearing the angle of exposure or some sort of other threat that he cannot work, because again, he is busy working another angle. This is going to be primarily used when somebody is in overlapping angles of exposure, meaning he's exposed to two separate angle sets, but because he's only one person, he's only able to effectively work one of those angles. So somebody has to cover the angles of exposure that he's exposed to, i.e. his wingman. In my personal definition of wingmanning, to me, wingmanning implies physical contact, because I have to cover the angles of exposure that my buddy is exposed to that he cannot see. So in my opinion, wingmanning implies physical contact. Now, it's not very invasive. I'm not like way up in his shit. It could just be simply an elbow or a forearm contact or whatever. But there is some form of physical contact between the, let's just say it, the point man and the wingman. This also becomes really important in application, particularly if you're like under nods or something. You can't, because your field of view is so limited, you can't really see each other. So that physical contact is really important in certain situations, but it also ensures that you are covering the angles, or to the best of your ability, you are covering angles of exposure that your point man is exposed to. So that physical contact, in my opinion, is super important, and it's a critical factor when it comes to wingmanning. Once physical separation is broken off, or sorry, once physical contact is broken off, in my opinion, you no longer have a wingman. But again, different people and different schools of thought have different definitions in terms of what they define wingmanning is. But for me personally, that's how I define wingmanning. Like I said, it's a lot easier to show and demonstrate than it is to explain. So let's go ahead and let's bring up some examples, and I'll show you exactly what wingmanning looks like. So in this example, we have two guys are moving through a hallway. And in this hallway, we have an open door on the left, as well as an L section that breaks off to the left. In this example, the number one man, he's going to push up. He already actually has a wingman in this particular case. The wingman, the number two man, he's over his shoulder, also essentially providing another gun for long security. But they're already in a wingman formation. So as they approach the open door, the point man, he's going to go ahead and reorient himself to start slicing out the room. And the wingman, i.e. the number two man in this case, right, he's going to maintain forward security and maintain security over that L shape at the end of the hallway. Once entry is made, that wingman is broken off, and the wingman now becomes number two man and attacks the opposing corner. And then in this case, he quickly reorients himself to maintain control over the hallway. Moving on, here's another example. Here's an example of wingmanning being used post-entry. So in this case, we have dead space created by some sort of partition wall. And on top of that, we have an open door behind that partition wall. So in this case, the individual on the left-hand side of the room who currently has the angle on both the dead space and the door, he's going to go ahead and wave in his support. So he's going to go ahead and just wave in his support. Support man is going to go ahead and step forward, start attacking the dead space, and the other guy, he's going to go ahead and wingman for him and cover the angles of exposure from the open door. So for the next example, here we have another hallway, except now we have an L section that breaks off right and an open door on the left. So now we have opposing threats. So these two, they're going to go ahead and get into cross coverage, and they're going to move up in cross coverage until it's not really safe to do so anymore. At that point, there's going to be a wave off, and the person who was slicing out the room is going to go ahead and transfer over to the L shape, and the person who was covering the L shape is going to transfer over to the door, and the person who transferred to the L shape, he's going to go ahead and collapse in and wingman the person slicing out the room and cover log security, which in this case is the L shape. Now for the next example, here we have the same exact example, except the hallway is significantly more narrow. So in this case, you can still go into cross coverage. So for this example, that will still stay in cross coverage. However, the cross coverage isn't going to go nearly as far because it's a much tighter hallway. So they're going to go up as far as they can safely. Then it's going to be the same exact thing. There's going to be a wave off, and then they're going to exchange threats. Again, still utilizing wingman. The person who exchanged the door, he's going to go ahead and collapse into the person who's now taking up the door. He's going to wingman and cover long security, i.e. the L shape. Now, if we use the same example, they can choose not to go into cross coverage. Here they can just go immediately right into a wingman formation. They're going to move up the hallway until the point man has exposure to the room. At that point, he's going to transfer over to the room and begin slicing out the room, and his wingman is just going to maintain forward security as he works the room. So those are just a few examples of where wingmanning can and will be utilized. Like I said, the times in which, or the examples in which wingmanning can be utilized is nearly unexhaustible. And a lot of that comes with experience, knowing when I'm going to become a wingman, particularly when it comes to exchanges. But again, it's something you need to get good at, and it's something you need to start recognizing immediately because it's just going to be utilized a lot when it comes to Team CQB. So anyways, I hope you found this video helpful and informative. If you did, please like and subscribe. I'm Tyler Austin from Gungnir Strategic. Thank you so much for watching.